Hi and welcome back to Neural Splendor. I wanted to continue with the 559 fault code series that I started. We're talking about the ISXCM 2250 Cummins diesel engine. I want to talk about safety before we get started on troubleshooting the fuel system. The first video I did on 559 basically talked about changing fuel filters on the engine. I would say in the fleet that I work with, 7 of 10 559 fault codes are curable just by changing fuel filters and or finding a bad number 10 line from the tank to the filter housing, sucking air at a fitting, something like that. Once we get past that, we get into some that calculated troubleshooting of the engine. Before we start that, we need to talk about safety. Hopefully everyone that works on this engine is trained on it and knows all the safety procedures that they need to follow. The number one thing I want to emphasize is you never open the common rail, any of those high pressure fittings when the engine's running. The fuel pressure in there is upwards of 30 to 35,000 psi at high idle. The engine idles at about 8,000 psi, and if you open that fitting, the first burst of fuel that comes out of there could cause you severe harm, if not death. There have been a few people that have died because they've opened the common rail system. I guess they didn't know the safety procedures on it, so you do never open that system when the engine's running. Number two, when you shut that engine off, if the fuel system is healthy, it will maintain fuel pressure. I have seen personally one of these engines maintain 12,000 psi after not being started for 2 weeks. So there's a fitting on the common rail that you loosen to bleed that pressure off safely, and that fitting is the nut that is on the common rail high pressure fuel line that goes back down to the pump head. So the line from the high pressure pump that comes up and goes to the rail to feed that high pressure fuel to the rail, that fitting, that nut is what you loosen to bleed down the pressure in the high pressure rail. And once you take that nut loose, everything's safe. The common rail fuel system is high pressure, very low flow. So when you take that loose, there's not going to be a lot of fuel that sprays out of there, but there's going to be a shot of fuel that comes out of it, be sure of that. So respect that high pressure rail. Okay? All right, let's move on to beginning to get familiarized with the system.